Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and this is going to be a new series, I think, which is going to be called Do CBT with Ingrid. Okay, I don't know, it's like a series of different episodes, because I'm going to be looking at a book that is going to be my therapy. I'm going to be going through a book and talking through it with my psychologist. So I've put the anatomy wall behind me so you can see. Also, I have new glasses and I'm getting used to them. They kind of stick out from my face, but I like the colors of them. So I also had to buy a book for my CBT, and this is called Social Phobia, and it has a ton of eyes to watch me and to make sure that I do the exercises. Okay, make sure that I read it and make sure that I feel as judged as possible. It's for social anxiety. It's called Social Anxiety, Effective Help with Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. It's a Swedish book that's written by people who actually study psychology at the school at my medical school. And they talk a lot about the research behind what they're saying, and it's kind of nice for somebody like me who, well, I want to know the facts about it. So I was told that I should go through one chapter at a time and not take a sneak peek at each chapter, because otherwise I'll spoil myself and I'll want to go through it too fast. So what I'm doing is that I just had to read the first chapter, and then I'm going to discuss it with my psychologist. And I also have like a little notebook so that I can write down my ideas. Let's see. Oh, I can't open a book and hold the phone at the same time. This was not well thought out. And it talks, the first part is the introduction, and the introduction just says like how to use this book. You can use it either as a self-help book or as something that you do with your therapist. It gives you some helplines, and then it says, what is social phobia, basically. This is what the first chapter is about. So it talks about how, what is anxiety? Anxiety is something that we all have had to experience because of different fears, because we had to run away from stuff, from terrible animals and things that could have hurt us. And we get a sort of always a little bit of stress, and that leads to anxiety. And then you have phobias that we're starting, like you can have phobias for different things, like spiders and stuff, but you can also be scared of people judging or your thoughts that people are judging you. They also talk about agoraphobia, but not much. Then it says what kind of situations can give anxiety for somebody who has social phobia. And it talks about that you could put them into two groups. One of them is interaction situations, where you have to interact and socialize with other people. And prestation, you're being evaluated, or you have to do a good job, you have perfectionism, or you're scared because you have to do well. So these situations are like talking in front of a group, or talking together with small groups, to eat or drink in front of other people, to talk to people of authority, which is a big thing for me. Speak to people who you don't know, which is kind of a thing for me. Call somebody that you don't know, and that is a big thing for me. Go at a party, and I can go to certain parties, but usually I need to know somebody there. Play an instrument in front of other people, which like I don't do because I don't play the violin anymore. But yeah, do something while other people are looking, which is something that I have a lot of struggles with. Writing while somebody looks, not really a thing for me. Meeting new people, tough. Go to a room where other people are already there. That's something that I get when, like, you know, there are people and like they all look at you when you come in. That's why I get nervous when I get like late, when I come in late and everybody's already sitting there. Tell your own opinions, which depends on who it is. To bring back goods to the store. I don't really do that much, so I don't know. Look at people in the eyes. That is kind of stressful. Use public toilets. Talk to colleagues at work. Sit in front of somebody on the bus. To talk about yourself or your feelings. To talk with attractive people. To take initiative to a romantic or sexual contact. To meet somebody that you know in town. So yeah, you could have just one specific or a few specific things, or you could have a generalized social phobia, because once you have a bad experience, then you start to generalize it to other situations. And depending on how much you generalized, the worse it is. So it talks about the diagnostic criteria, and you have to be scared, basically. You have to, this situation always or mostly gives you anxiety and you avoid it, or you go through it, but it's terribly anxiety inducing. And it's difficult for you, and it affects your life. It can't be caused because of some other illness. So that is about it. How common is it? 15% of the Swedish population, which obviously is not representative of the world. The numbers seem to be around 10%. In smaller or bigger, not generalized social anxiety. So most people have some kind of anxiety about some kind of social situation. So it depends on the definition. So then, why do you get social anxiety? It says because you're learning. When you learn things as a child and as a teenager, most of the time it comes during teenage years. And it's something that you've learned through time because you've had a bad experience or when you've had to talk in front of others. It says that usually something that comes is that you're shy when you're small. And I definitely was shy since I was a child. So here they talk about generalizing, where just like one situation can lead to like you avoiding a ton of situations. It also talks about how sometimes the parents have social anxiety and then pass it over to their children. Or that the parents are too controlling, and that's kind of the case of my parents, that were overprotective and they tell you that you have to be critical of yourself, pretty much. They talk about an inhibited temperament style, which is basically being shy. So they talk about that. They talk about genetics too. And then they talk about the symptoms of social anxiety. And there's the cognitive part, so the thoughts. There's the physiological parts, which are the body. The emotional parts, which are, emotions. And then there's the behavior. And so the thoughts are basically either that you're worried before the thing, or that you're like have negative thoughts during the thing, like, oh, I'm not going to manage this, or afterwards you regret having done the thing. And it talks about how you're so focused on yourself that it's kind of like you have to monitor yourself, and you're like in anxiety mode, and you kind of can't take criticism. It's difficult to interpret things right. And they talk about this later, that usually we think that there's a situation and then there's the action, but there's also the like interpretation in between. The bodily symptoms is not something that I have very often, but yeah, it's the usual ones, like the pulse going up, feeling like you're going to die, feeling nausea, or that you can't breathe, that kind of thing. I usually get that when I have panic attacks, but I don't have panic attacks very often. Then it comes to the emotional, and it's usually fear, obviously, anxiety, but embarrassment is another one, and you don't feel hope for the future because it feels like more of the same. You feel like you won't be able to meet anybody in the future. You'll be forever alone. So yeah, and also you have a hard time with criticism, which is true. And the thing is, the behavior is that you avoid, and that's what I've been doing a lot. Or you try to have these coping mechanisms that are not always healthy, like sitting on the side of a room, or on the back of the room, so that you can get away. And you can get really creative with those things. They give some examples. They're kind of funny. And then it says, how do you treat this? Now you talk about medicines, which I'm already on. And then you talk about CBT, and it's like situation, reaction. And they talk about how there is an interpretation in there, and sometimes the interpretation is wrong if you're just so a slave to your social anxiety, okay? And how thoughts and behaviors and emotions and body are all coupled to each other, and they all like affect each other. So it says you can learn, okay? It's positive, okay? We can learn to be better, okay? We can learn to not run away from our fears and to actually sit there with our fears. So it says that we think that if we stay in the situation, the anxiety will just go on and on and on and on, and then you will die, okay? But what actually happens is that at some point you will calm down. And if you run away, then the anxiety comes down instantly, and so it feels positive in the moment and it's good in the short term, but in the long term it means that you have a limited life, basically, because you don't face the fears. But if you come and expose yourself, if you come closer, stay in the situation, you will feel a lot of anxiety, but then by repeating that, the fear disappears. And they show a nice MRI scan of talking about how the amygdala gets big when you are always scared, basically. Then it talks about how you can use this as a self-help book, but then it talks about how you should actually be treated for depression before you get treated for social anxiety if you feel that it's affecting the therapy. So I don't know yet if I can go through with this, but I'll talk to a psychologist about this. This book has 9 or 10 chapters, by the way, so this will be 9 or 10 episodes. This helps me to actually do the work, okay? So I like doing these YouTube videos. It kind of makes me think about stuff. So you're helping me on my therapy journey. That's positive. So then there's a self-screening for social anxiety with different situations and how anxiety-filled they are for me. The worst things for me are to say my own opinions in front of other people, to call somebody I don't know, to talk with people of authority, or to talk or act in front of a group. There are some other things that kind of stress me out that aren't included in this list, but it's those things, and some things like don't affect me at all. Like I can write while other people look and it doesn't faze me. I can eat while other people look. But so I had 23 points. If you have 23 points, it means that you have probably social anxiety. But if you have over 29 points, then that means that you have generalized social anxiety. So I was kind of surprised because I thought that I had generalized social anxiety, but it ends up that there are people who are way worse than me. So that is depressing, but okay. And then it says, then I have 4 questions to deal with. And this chapter was mostly an introduction, so it doesn't have a lot for me to do this week. But the first question is, what are the symptoms of social anxiety that you relate to? And say if they are thoughts, if they are emotions, if they're in the body, or if they're behavioral. The biggest thing for me is that I avoid a lot of stuff. I do have all of these to a certain degree, but the bodily symptoms rarely come because I usually avoid it before it gets that bad. So actually I've just been very good at avoiding. How does this, question 2, how does this limit your day-to-day life? And it limits my life because I can't do a bunch of stuff and everything feels awful and it makes me really tired. In which social situations do you have anxiety? Well, that's kind of the first question. So I've already answered. And then there's make a hierarchy of anxiety. And basically you have to put like from 0 to 100, which situations are the worst. And so like some of them are, I don't think I have anything that's 100. Unless it was something really crazy. But like, for me, like going to a public toilet is not a big thing. So I would put that at like 10%. But if I had to do a presentation or have somebody look on while I'm presenting something, then I would put that like 75%. I'm very much more anxious about that. So that is the first chapter of this book. I'm going to the psychologist tomorrow and see how he can help me. There have been some positive developments in my life where I talked to my boss, because my boss came, and because I tried to call him and he came to me, and I told him that it wasn't okay for him to start blabbing about his personal life when I'm actually struggling, and that we actually have a plan of what to do in the future, like how I can go slowly up to normal working capacity, and how the patients will be listed on me. Because he basically like decided on his own that he was going to list a ton of patients on me. And I was like, and I got a list of like people that were going to be listed on me. And I was like, what is this? So And then he went and told everybody that there was a plan for my listed patients. And so then I had to tell him, stop, I need to be in on this plan. So I actually had a good discussion with my boss, which is kind of scary to do for me with social anxiety. So I do love my boss for doing all of this work to make this work for me. He's also said that he's going to allow me to go to the psychologist at this private company that I am going to for free. So I am very grateful for that. Because the general clinic where I was supposed to go, it is socialized medicine, but they have still not called me, and I called them to say what's going on, and they said they probably won't be able to see me within 3 months. So I've already waited a month, so I don't think that I'll be getting a psychologist time soon. So I'm glad I have everything going on okay. I was also having a little bit of a misunderstanding with my INFJ friend, which sometimes happens, and we kind of resolved it, I think. So things are going in the right direction. I have been wondering if it's really social anxiety that is my problem, but I think that it is a good starting point to work on the CBT. And I'll try to make this a regular thing, because I'm supposed to read like a chapter a week or every other week. Tell me what you guys think. You maybe all know about CBT and such, but I find this helpful for myself. So whether you want to watch this or not, I'll be doing this. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.